Bourbon Barkeep. My name's Curtis, and we got a budget-friendly review today. Am I pumped that it's Penelope back-to-back? No. I'm even more annoyed that I actually bought these with my own money. They weren't sent to me generously by Ross and Squibb. Penelope. Can this be the bottle of the summer? We'll find out. I'm going to get this poured real quick, and we'll get the review on. Welcome to the channel, Penelope Weeded. This is the 5th edition to their core series. You know, they got their bourbon, they got their architect, they got their 4-grain, and someone else out there. Number 5, here we are. Now, this is going to run you about $40, $45, I believe. Seems to be pretty widely available. I actually passed it on the shelf, and I was like, well, you're kind of a budget-friendly whiskeytube channel, and you're passing a budget-friendly weeded that should be hopefully decent. This mash bill is going to be a 4-strainer. It's going to be 74% corn, 16% wheat, 7% rye, and 3% malted barley. This is coming in at 95 proof. 4 to 6 years old is what Penelope says, not the bottle. So take that for what it is. Uncut, unfiltered. This mash bill, they're going with a weeded. I get it. One thing sounded familiar, and I was like, hey, what's Penelope's other mash bills? This is only 1% higher than the white label, just the straight bourbon, coming in at 80 proof, and I believe it's 4 years old. So that one, I believe, $30, $35. This one coming in at $40, $45. I don't know. I mean, is it a money grab? 1% more wheat, and now you're just the weeded one? So for $5 to $10, is the extra proof worth it? Let's figure out if this bottle's any good, and then we got some comparisons lined up as well. Now, once I kind of heat this glass up, if you can go ahead, like, subscribe. It is free, so that's cool, unless you want to be extra generous and join the channel, whatever that means. Regardless, you're not getting spammed. So it's just, hey, you're out there getting notified when you log into YouTube. So that sounds of interest and you like bourbon reviews, whiskey reviews, welcome and hang around. Now let's get this on the nose. Couldn't tell you there's any rye in there. Couldn't tell you there's wheat in there. There's that nice, like a sweet corn, like maybe a kettle corn. Red fruit. Vanilla honey. I mean, it's a smooth, bright nose, very approachable. You can really get in there if you need to. As it starts to open up and warm up in my hand, the hoodie's still on, so here we are. A little bit more fruit started to come out. We had the red fruit still. That got a little more rich. You could even go into kind of, remember those fruit leather things? Like the dried fruit and some apple. So very bright, light. Let's see what the palate has for us. Cheers. About more the same. Honey, vanilla right off the bat. Very strong. Apple continues. A little more burn. Ooh. For 95, it does sit in the chest nicely. Leaves the tongue in a hurry just to get into that chest. But finish isn't bad. Kind of like a lingering cinnamon spice. Once again, I mean, if I didn't know there was a 7% rye in here, I don't know if I could tell you there was any rye. I mean, it's supposed to be a wheated, even though I feel like a lower wheat. Not too bad. Let's see if that nice 95 proof hug that hugs above continues. Sip 2 is delightful. Sip 1, even when you kind of know what you're expecting, your palate kind of needs to acclimate a little bit more, see what comes out. Once it kind of acclimates, that sweetness elevated, kind of in a good way. That apple still continued. That vanilla was a little richer on the second sip. Cinnamon spice on the tongue hangs around a long time, but that's really it. It's just kind of that tongue zing. It doesn't sit on the palate long, not that I would really expect it to at 95 proof. The hug was decent for what it is. I do think that this is pretty dangerous whiskey when it comes to how sippable it is, because it's going to go down in a hurry. It's good. I don't think that there's a ton to unpack on it, but when you're talking $40, $45, this is extremely smooth. Now, what I like to do on this channel, if you're new, hopefully this helps you as well, is kind of figure out, okay, so if this is here and I got another bottle sitting there, which one am I picking between? So I was going through, I was like, hey, Weller Special Reserve. That's a weeder. That's actually really hard to find in Kansas City for whatever reason. I don't think people are stocking up on it. I just don't think we see it. So for all the people that are in Oklahoma and where else? Ohio and California that just trip over it, good for you. Kansas City doesn't get to see it. So if you are looking for it, I couldn't even tell you where to find it. And then we have an episode a couple weeks ago, maybe now, Bardstown. They're bottled and bonded as a wheat. It's going to be 6 years, so close in age, and just a touch more proof. So I'm going to get those poured up, see which one we actually land on, and then get this guy scored up for Whiskey of the Year rankings. All right, we got him up. I haven't had Weller Special and Reserve in forever, so let's see how this goes. So to hit the quick specs one more time, we got our weeder, rumored to be 16%. So you have the same amount of wheat, obviously the no rye in there. Just that 3 grain, what, $25, $30 now? Not really sure. Secondary, you want to hear this? That's like $50, $60. Please just don't. There's other stuff at this point. All right, let's dive into a little Weller Special Reserve, do a quick side-by-side, see if Penelope Weeded is the one that you should be looking for. We'll say a lot more oak on the Weller Special Reserve. Honey, vanilla, straightforward. Let's get it on the palate. Damn, there's just nothing there. Ultra sweet, that Big League Chew. I was trying to remember the pink one. Big League Chew. Honey, vanilla, cherry. It's gone. There's no hug. I get it's 90 proof. I get it. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer when it comes to the Weller. If this is better than the Penelope Weeded, awesome. Great. But it falls a little flat. I think that the maybe the 5 proof could just be that. I think that rye spice does add just a little bit of a layer in there and gives it a little more girth to where this one is very thin, very watery. This one at least has a little meat to it. Let's get back and then we'll keep going. Nose is fantastic when you're comparing these two. The oiliness is very on display when you're going side by side. There's like a nice graham cracker that kind of comes out here at the end now. Yeah. I mean, even if I would pay the extra $10, not the secondary, but I would pay the extra $10 both at SRP. I think that this is just a higher quality bourbon at that point. Last, but certainly not least, we have our Bardstown Bottled and Bond. This is coming in at 6 years, 100 proof, $50. And this one has 20% wheat in here. Obviously the no rye, that's going to be a Penelope specific thing here. So if we're talking about wheated bourbons, yeah, Bardstown should have the crown, even though we got wheated plastered just right across our chest, like I'm Superman by Penelope. So we just did a Bardstown kind of spotlight. I have really respected and appreciated their prices and what juice they've been putting in there. So you can go check that one out. Let's revisit, see if this is once again worth the step up in price because right now Penelope is probably worth a step up from Weller at least. I love that nose. I remember there was a lot of citrus. It's very dense smelling for being 100 proof. It's very saturated in there, but that citrus, that brown sugar, and that vanilla is what I'm here for. Yeah, the reviews out there, we'll just get on the palate, see how we rank them. Man, that's good. It's very sweet, it's pillowy, soft, but hangs around a very long time. When you're talking about, some of these price tiers, once you start putting them side by side, even though these are pretty minuscule, I mean, $5, $10, if you will, you do start to tell some of the difference in terms of that mouthfeel and how velvety what Bardstown has been able to do. The sweetness comes out, but not overbearing like what I feel like at least the Weller Special Reserve is to me. And it's probably part of the oiliness. But man, that cinnamon spice is just lingering in there, but ultimately it's like this candied ruby red grapefruit and honey and vanilla and some oak. I mean, I just feel like the complexity is there enough at $50 to where I would pay the extra $10 to $5. Yeah, $10 to $5 to make the step up on Bardstown's Bottled and Bond. It's not a slight to what Penelope does. I think that this is a great summer pour. So that brings us into our scoring system. We got 2 of them. We have our senses. That's just going to be pure what's in the glass. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care how allocated it is. Just what's in the glass and how good is it. Then we do a little bang for the buck. That is, what did I pay for it? You can take specs into consideration. Is it a 10-year bourbon? Is it finished? Whatever. Would I pay above the price tag? Or did I just figure out, yeah, that was a waste of money, which happens more than I wish it did. Penelope, the wheated, it's good. It's something that I'm going to probably spend a lot of time with this summer. Probably not any other season, but once again, not a dig. It's smooth. The nose is great. At 95 proof, it has a great hug. It's a little thin on the tongue, but ultimately the tasting notes, simple or not, are done very well. So I think when it comes to the senses piece, it's going to do fine. It's going to do very respectable when you consider the bucket that it's placed into. But bang for the buck matters here. So I think senses-wise, I'm just going to go 67. It's straightforward. It's good. But bang for the buck, it's going to make up a ton of room. Because at $40, $45, this is really damn good. I think that it stands up to a lot of other whiskeys and even the $50 range. So I think for what I get at $45, high quality, I wouldn't pay too much above the lower proof, lower age, but I definitely got my money's worth. And we'll just go 72. Doesn't punch far above $50, but I definitely have zero guilt having it on my shelf over here, and it will be reached for, which I can't say for some of the bottles. So there's that. Penelope, wheated, probably not whiskey of the year. Is it summer whiskey of the year? Maybe. But let me know what you think. Like I said, this should be pretty widely available. I don't think it's necessarily just a shelfer, but it shouldn't be too hard to find from the sound of it. I think it's a buy. I don't think a lot of people will be disappointed in it. If you like the budget aspect, like, subscribe. If you like whiskey, like and subscribe. And we'll continue down this path. Thanks for joining.